You know, I just realized
Oh,
I've never had an epiphany.
you're stupid.
Well, welcome to another episode of Difficult Childhood. My name is Jason, and this here is my beautiful bachelor degree holding partner, Falon, lifelong friend. And today we're going to talk about what?
We're going to talk about meditation.
Oh,
Good
yeah.
old meditation. Oh, deep thinking, as the organization would call it. But specifically, we're going to talk about meditation in two different aspects. If you're familiar with organization, they continually tell members that if you practice any kind of meditation, that there is the potential to open some kind of portal to like the evil spirit world, and that members are in danger of like demonic possession and things like that. But we're going to look at what they're actually afraid of. Something equally nefarious but different, in two parts.
And in my estimation, this thing is actually a real thing. They're worried that Jehovah's Witnesses are going to get attacked by demons. There's not a lot of, I don't know how you would document that, I'll grant that, but there's not a lot of document cases that we've heard of that of people meditating and then suddenly a demon enters their mind and takes over them or plants little nasty thoughts in there. But we're also going to hear from our friend Deanna June. She has a channel, and I'm going to share that with you in the description. We also have a voice message from her about what she's gotten from meditating, and I think her perspective here might be helpful to everybody.
Agreed.
Kind of start with maybe Watchtower's position. In 1984, there's an Awake article called "The Quest for Relaxation," and the writing committee in this article basically links, because transcendental meditation has its origins in Hinduism. They link all meditation, the clearing of your mind, and there's other types that we'll get into. They link all of it to false worship,
Right.
which is just simply not the case. So what they do is they say, you know, where Paul said, I forget the scripture, but they cite it, a little leaven ferments the whole lump. Well, they say since one kind of meditation has these origins, therefore all kinds of meditation could let in demonic influence. And that it's kind of I don't think that's a non sequitur to me.
Well, even if you jump ahead in their stance on it, if you like fast forward to the 2014 Awake, the way even that this is worded is so wacky. It says, yes, like a fire, meditation must be controlled, exclamation point. Otherwise, improper thoughts could nurture hurtful desires that might race out of control and lead to evil deeds. So they know how meditation really works, that it would lead to racing thoughts when usually it's meant to suppress racing thoughts.
Opposite.
No, it doesn't mean what you think it means.
Keep using that word. Yeah, I imagined me using my Calm app, and no, this is not a sponsored episode by the Calm app, but I'll be listening, trying to be present in the moment, and then my eyes open and they're red, and I'm like, stab all the puppies. You know, what? It was such a weird little claim that somehow they have absolutely no evidence to back up that this has ever happened or ever could happen.
It makes you Cruella de Vil? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, basically.
Get those puppies.
I'm going to make myself such a cute hoodie.
Oh, gosh. Now, obviously, we are aware that there are many different types of meditation. Some have religious overtones. Many are just simply secular, have nothing to do with faith, religion, anything like that. But I did read a definition of what meditation is that I really liked. This is from headspace.com, which is an online mental health kind of portal. They offer ways to relax, calm your mind, unwind, sort of. And on their page, under the question, what truly is meditation? it says it's about training in awareness and getting a healthy sense of perspective. You're not trying to turn off your thoughts or feelings. You're learning to observe them without judgment. And eventually, you may start to better understand them as well. And I just think that's such a great way to look at it, that you're not trying to zone out necessarily. Like a lot of times, maybe when we think of meditation, we think of somebody kind of like turning the brain on autopilot, but it's more about observing your thoughts or motivations with perspective in a way that's healthy without being inflammatory to yourself.
Right. And I think there's a big difference between something having its origin associated with a religion and something actually being associated with a religion. And what comes to mind is an example of, your wedding ring, for example. You don't, it is, yes, that has a pagan origin. Now, does that mean that at all? No, not at all. And I think about how mindfulness meditation has its origin in Buddhism, but I don't think those methods of meditation really have anything to do with Buddhism other than somebody religious on a mountaintop in Tibet bumped into it a long time ago and found it helpful. Like monks use wagon wheels, but I don't count myself as a Buddhist because I have a radio flyer. It doesn't follow. Makes no sense to me. So even though this is we're talking really about I guess the point is we're talking about the secular meditating. I'm borrowing another tweaked definition from Watchtower, but the meditating that we can do is even recommended, like you said, that definition is on a mental health website, and it's recommended by, like, my therapist has recommended it. It's been extremely useful. Like I said earlier, there's a Calm app, and that's just the one I happen to use because it happens to be free with my medical insurance. And that's another point. It's paid for by my medical insurance. It obviously has a help. So you go in there, and a voice, not a demon's voice, a guy just guides you through the process of how to get into the moment. And I found it tremendous utility in doing that.
Yeah. I mean, even as a Christian, there are types of meditation that do not bother me. At nighttime, it's really hard for me to sometimes turn my brain off to go to sleep at night. I just have, like, racing thoughts about, like, what do I have to do tomorrow, or, build, or just whatever everybody normally thinks about. So sometimes it's really hard for me to change gears into, like, sleep mode. So I've tried, like, the progressive muscle, like, relaxation meditation. And there's lots of, like, guided ones online that kind of just help you relax head to toe physically, so that your body starts to release endorphins and you feel relaxed enough that you can fall asleep. And it's been super helpful.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned that. Last night I was laying on my side asleep, and I was just clenched, and I'm like, why am I clenched? This is insane. I'm in bed. It's an incredibly squishy bed. But
Yeah.
off topic. So the Watchtower's position is clearly absurd, but what we're going to talk about is the real reasons the governing body does not want you to meditate. And the first one I thought was interesting. Although this is just more from our analysis. You guys can tell us if you disagree. But when people find clarity and peace, solutions to their problems from within themselves, I think they can eventually find that they just don't need, God's one true organization to solve all their problems. Because if you are starting to solve your problems yourself, and you realize there's a good positive life outside of a cult, that you don't need it, well, that's a big, they need to be needed. The governing body does.
Sure. Yeah. I feel like when they talk about, like, safe meditation, the word is used loosely, but they're basically saying you can think deep thoughts on, like, what our current doctrine is. But when they talk about something you can meditate on, they want you only looking forward. They don't want you lost in deep thoughts about, the last 50 years of nonsensical doctrine changes. Um, only what's happening right now is safe. So they would always say things like, after you've read your Watchtower lesson for the week, take time to meditate on the message. But that's, like you said, that's just like a loose interpretation of what meditation really is.
It's just thinking watchtowery thoughts is all that is.
It's a way to self-indoctrinate. Focus on what we've just told you, even if it doesn't make sense. Just concentrate hard on it.
I was, again, a little off topic, excuse my ADHD. I was watching a video the other day of a guy who goes to different churches. He's an atheist, and he just goes and sees what they do. And he actually likes quite a few churches. He's like, this is cool what they're doing. And he went to a congregation meeting of Jehovah's Witnesses, and he was like, what is happening when they're doing the Watchtower study? He's like, okay, so they read it in this tone of voice, and then they discuss it, and then they ask the question. He says, and then some guy comes up the aisleway. I'll link this video. It's hilarious. And they take this long pole and they point it at somebody in the audience that raised their hand. And then that person answers back in the same tone. How can we enjoy the rich blessings from blah, blah, blah? And it was, he said it was extremely off-putting how the question and then the repeat back. And it was very weird to him. So it's kind of a funny video for getting some perspective on how Jehovah's Witnesses meditate. They just repeat and dive, what they call inculcate those teachings into their head over and over again. That's not meditation, not remotely.
I did watch that video, and it made me think that I have heard people say that when they visited either like a district convention or Kingdom Hall, that they picked up like a very the Truman Show vibe.
Yeah.
Like kind of almost like Pleasantville, like everything is too perfect.
Yeah, exactly. The second thing that I think that the reason the governing body doesn't want you to meditate is, for me personally, I have received, since I stepped away from the indoctrination, years ago, and then started meditating. I should do it more, but when I did start that early on, because my thoughts were just racing, I was in a bad place, being shunned, brand new, shunned by my family. So when I stepped away and did some meditation, afterward, I had this calm, and then I started thinking, and this was the one thought, the absurdity about the organization that came to mind, that wouldn't have come to mind if I otherwise hadn't been clearing my head of all the clutter they stuck in there. And it was this, is that if Jehovah's Witnesses have the truth and they teach the truth from the platform, but New Light keeps changing that truth, were they teaching the truth in the past? Are they teaching the truth now? When New Light comes out in 2025, that renders 2024 untrue. So currently now I'm not learning the truth. And the conflict of that just started firing off. That was the one that came to me specifically from starting to meditate. And I think that's kind of a testimony to why they really don't want you to meditate, because you'll start thinking.
Yeah, free range thinking is dangerous. That's when that aspect of our brain, that critical thinking element, could potentially get engaged. And that's risky to them.
Right. And the third one, I guess, is more of a question for you, Falon, because you're a believer and I'm not. But if you're a believer and do you think that God would really have a problem with you having clarity of thought or meditating in a non-religious way?
I don't personally believe that it's a conflict for Christians to engage in secular meditation. But it's like anything else, whether it's songs or our words. Even the Bible says that there's words of blessing and there's words of malediction. Well, there's songs that are songs of praise and there's songs that tear down. So I feel like each person, whether you're a believer or a non-believer, you have to determine if meditation fits in with your personal beliefs.
Right.
And for me, it does not bother me. Now I'm not going to be engaging in any, transcendental meditation, trying to, rise to a different plane of existence or whatever. But the ones that help me manage stress, manage my emotions, calm calm myself if I'm feeling anxious or things like that. Like I personally, they don't bother my conscience.
Yeah, see, and this is one of those situations where you and I have very different belief sets, but we arrive at the same place because there's absolutely no way I want to go and have some Eastern spiritual leader in front of a classroom guiding me through his spiritual process. I have no interest in that.
Big
But
gong, bang the
yeah,
gong.
there's a gong. No, thanks. Leave me alone. But other people may like that, and I'm not knocking on them. That's just where we landed there. But at this moment, we wanted to share this voice message from Deanna June. She has a channel. Like I said, we will link it. And let me go ahead and pull this up. She was kind enough to give us her perspective and what she's gotten from meditation since leaving the cult. So here goes.
Hi, Jason. Hi, Falon. This is Deanna June of the Just June channel. And I wanted to comment on the whole thing about meditation. And I also do yoga and how it has helped me without the problem of any demons coming into play. Um, it has helped me specifically with alcoholism and walking away from the Jehovah's Witness organization so much. When I first got sober the first time, I was still an active Jehovah's Witness that was struggling with still being a Jehovah's Witness, having doubts. So I did not meditate. I did not do yoga. I was very afraid that the demons might get me. So I did not go down that road. And I traveled other ways of getting sober, but none of them really worked for me. And after about 2 years, I went back out and started drinking, even though I was no longer in any way a part of the Jehovah's Witness organization. But I was still very much struggling with who I was as a person. Um, I was getting to figure out, even though I was, at the time, what I would have been 47-ish, 48 years old. I was very much struggling with who I was. I did not know who I was. I had been born and raised a Jehovah's Witness, and I was always putting on that new personality. So I had no idea who I was. And I was so guilt ridden and full of shame because that is what the Jehovah's Witness organization does. And then I was guilt ridden and full of shame because of many terrible choices I had made as an alcoholic, which were actual reasons to be, feel some guilt and shame. But, I was just riddled with anger and frustration, and I didn't know where to go and where to turn. And at this point, I knew I was not a Christian. I knew that I was agnostic. So AA was not really working for me. And I finally learned that about meditation and yoga. And for me, it was a saving grace. It was exactly what I needed. And meditation can be a little different for everybody. Some people use it instead of prayer. Some people use it to talk to the universe. Some people use it, sorry about my dog in the background. Some people use it to sort of almost self talk, to talk themselves through a difficult situation. And I think that's sort of more where I land with meditation. When I first was getting sober, I would meditate every time I was having a difficult day, and my answer normally would have been to turn to the bottle. I would sit when I was at that moment of wanting to go buy a bottle and drink. I would stop, sit, and meditate and think, why? What is happening right now that makes me want to drink? And I would work through that situation in my head. And then as I would progress on, thinking about things, then I would turn on a guided meditation that would calm me and make me just calm down, breathe, focus, and I would get past that moment. And it was exactly what I needed. And the same goes for yoga. And then I finally learned that the problem had always been that I hated myself. I was so full of that guilt and shame that's why I drank. I drank because I didn't love me. And so I finally learned to not only like myself, but love myself. And that's what meditation and yoga did for me. And I hope it can help others to do the same so maybe they can get the relief they need. Thanks.
Love her.
Yeah, she's awesome. And she looks so healthy. Like you can see her videos there.
No, she's so nice
It
looking.
sounds like she's in her 50s from what she's saying, that this was back when I was 47, 48, something like that. And she looks young and healthy because she's treating herself right. That's awesome.
Yeah. I like what she said. It kind of went hand in hand with the definition that I read earlier about how meditation was to help you view your thoughts and feelings with perspective. When she said it helped me in the moment that I wanted to drink, pause and reflect on why did I want to drink. So for her, it was kind of helping her maybe step outside her own emotions in that moment and identify like what her underlying triggers were. And maybe not totally suppress that escapism response, but definitely help manage it better. It sounds like she's in a wonderful place now. And I think that's a really valuable skill that a lot of witnesses or ex-witnesses could benefit from, especially when you first get on the outside. Escapism response is very real. You don't have a lot of experience managing interpersonal conflict within the organization. Not that everyone gets along all the time, of course, but overall, the vibe is just very vanilla. Everyone just kind of meshes, like you're all the same, basically. So when you get out into the real world and there are people that are maybe aggressive with different points of view or different mindsets on whatever subject, that can cause you a lot of uncomfortable feelings. And maybe you do want to escape, and maybe your inclination is to drink or gamble or whatever. So I think if it could help you, manage those impulses or manage the anxiety that comes with those interactions, I think it's super valuable, and it could help a lot of people.
Yeah. And I think maybe we don't want to give the impression that those who are believers will definitely get a lot from organizations like AA, where it
Yeah.
is very
Right.
faith focused. That some people say they have a version of AA that's less than that, but it's kind of hard to go through all the the higher power and God stuff if you're not a believer. But then if you are a believer, that stuff can go great for you. And it's so some turn to God was what my note was. I was making this note when she was talking because she said, I don't want to forget it. But the organization never helps with the self-love issue, because the organization's teaching, talking about Jehovah's Witnesses, obviously, is that you need a new personality. You need to put on that new personality right away because we don't like your personality. You need to change yourself to how we are, because how you are is no good. And so that teaches a lot of really bad low self-esteem, and it makes things real hard. And that's why there's so many. Like a few weeks ago, Mike Gonzalez was talking on his episode when he was cleaning out the recycling at Bethel. That's why there were just bottles and bottles and bottles of empties of booze, hard liquor in the higher ups at Bethel. These are the people that are supposed to have all of God's spirit. You're just trying to regulate any way you can, and it's so hard because there's so much self-loathing that happens when you are an active member.
They often make you feel like loving yourself is like prideful, or it's automatic, like vanity, or you're pompous in some way. But as a Christian, if there's something in me that God can love, then I just I owe it to myself to love that also.
Interesting. I never thought of that.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't like how they make people feel like you're not good enough. You're a little bug waiting to be crushed.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we thought we'd also kind of share some of the meditations that you mentioned a little bit of what you've done to keep your mind from racing, the muscle relaxing. I found mindfulness meditation to be very useful. And it was, this is the definition of it, is in mindfulness meditation, the practitioner is to stay aware and present in the moment. And like you said before, it's not about just closing your mind off to zeroing it out, but rather becoming present. And I remember one therapist said, just little things in the room, like in my office, there's an air conditioning register down here, and it makes a little sound. It might just be something, if I'm just focus on one thing for a bit, to kind of clear things out and be right in the moment. And but for me, a lot of people find temperature, cold exposure is really useful for that. Now, I realize this is not available to everybody, but they recently put in at this gym I go to this. It looks like a spa. And the first time I got in it, I realized I had made a huge mistake. It was not a spa. It is a cold plunge. And so it was, I mean, it's not crazy cold like you see people on TikTok, hopping in ice water.
Nice drink,
It's
yeah.
about 45, 50 degrees. And you get in it, and that is the only thing you're thinking about.
Cold enough.
It's cold enough. And it resets your brain, it resets everything. And it really helped me on those days when my ADHD, which is not just one of those things I'm like, I can't stay focused. I actually have diagnosed by a psychiatrist ADHD. And on those days when I'm bouncing around, which I'm sure you've all witnessed poor Falon put up with on this podcast, she kind of corrals me. I would get into that chill pool, and if that wasn't available, literally just fill a pitcher with water and put my hand in it, and then do a little meditation. It would clear my mind and give me a nice reset, and really bring me into the moment, because I'm aware of that sensation, and it just kind of, it's a nice little reset in the midday.
It makes me think that it's probably just a good way to stay balanced, because thanks to the old cell phone, Americans are just receiving constant neural input, just nonstop. That's why we love scrolling, because it's just.
I mean, here we are making content for those, but yeah.
Here we are. It's that constant neural input. And so then when we go without it, a lot of people experience like cell phone withdrawal or social media withdrawal, and it's really a reflex to the lack of that neural input that we like so much. So I think meditation could potentially balance that out and make that withdrawal response hopefully less, where that even if you're not receiving that constant input constantly, you can sit in the quiet and be comfortable with it, and not be overwhelmed with the desire to hop online or look at your phone or.
I heard it expressed this morning, like when I was sitting at the doctor's office and I had like 15 minutes to wait there. I heard it expressed on my meditation app that I was listening to on my headphones. It was the idea of waiting without wanting. And so just sitting there, and then it's very much like at breakfast. We're sitting there with our families at breakfast, and we're having our cereal, but we're really kind of getting ready to go leave for work. And that's the next thing we're going to do, and not really actually present. And the only thing that matters in life is what's actually happening right now. That's the only thing that we can really control. You can't control the future. The past has already happened. So this notion of doing some exercises that help you to be in the moment without wanting to move on to the next moment have been real useful.
I mean, Marty McFly would disagree that the past has already happened, but just going to leave that as it is.
I don't have a DeLorean, so.
If only, buddy. If we ever take this show on the road, we're going to have to get one.
The guy next to me, there's this garage right next to me, and I always see he has a really nice DeLorean sitting out there. It's gorgeous. Anyway, off topic. The next one was movement meditation, which could be involve like activities like walking through the woods, gardening, other forms of gentle movement that just take you out of your daily buzz and often take you into nature.
Yes, I think that's awesome because so many Americans lead these kind of lethargic, more sedentary lifestyles where they just don't have a lot of movement.
Third one that I was noticing that was really another one that was very not religious centered was guided meditation. And that's one that's pretty common in the apps, is that you'll have a therapist who will kind of say, now try to do this. Now try to do that. And then they allow like a 3-minute gap where you're trying to do that. And did you notice that you didn't quite succeed? Well, that's okay because you tried for this long. And then they bring you back.
Yeah.
And that's really useful because I'm, I'm definitely a noob at it. I'm not advanced at all. And having somebody guide me through it, it just takes 10 minutes. And that was just so helpful to kind of, okay, what do I want to get done today? And it just cleared everything out. But you can, again, definitely see why the organization does not want people thinking that clearly.
No, it's too risky for sure. The only voice they want to play in your head is just, what's printed on the page.
My book of Bible stories.
I swear I was just thinking that, but I was like, no, I'm not going to say that.
No, only an idiot would say that.
That's the narrator for sure.
Yeah. Well, my final thoughts here. I think meditation offers many benefits. It's not for everybody. It's different from everybody, like Deanna June said. And but I do think for me particularly, it did help me break some habits that were unhealthy behaviors, because when I was leaving, suddenly I was getting shunned. All of my family was my whole system of support was gone. I'm having all these bad feelings. And also now I'm kind of free to do whatever I want. Well, how much alcohol should I go buy? What kind of apps do I want to get on? Because now I'm single and I'm not restrained by a religion, and it just led to a lot of unhealthy behavior to try to chase down dopamine, and that depression and anxiety that came with all that just made me, like I said, pursue dopamine and endorphins. And meditation's been a powerful way to deal with that and clear out that clutter and find out, why am I feeling this way, instead of just being reactive and trying to mask or not sit with the discomfort of the trauma of waking up from a cult.
Agreed. So yeah, my final thought would just be, just like anything else, use your discretion. If you try it and decide it's not for you, don't do it again. But don't let fear from an inaccurate understanding of what meditation is from a man-made organization prevent you from at least trying something that could potentially be really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you have had a demon slide into your brain while meditating, we'd love to hear from you. You can go to speakpipe.com/difficult childhood and tell us exactly what happened. We'd appreciate any documentation to support. But obviously the claims the organization are making about meditation are ridiculous. And it's another one of those things where they're being deceitful and trying to keep the control over people as much as they can. It's awful.
It is.
We're taking flight from shadows to sunlight. Everything's alright. Turn the page now, new day's begun. All that we dreamed, we have won. In the mirror's gaze, see strength.